Welcome, Tailgate Beers. We are here, Crusens, Peoria, Illinois, Central Illinois. We are with our good friend, Clayton Shay.
'Cause today feels like it's good for nothing. Nothing's what I'm gonna do. Kick back, get the reruns running.
And we are very excited to have him sitting in with us today. Thanks for taking the time out. I know you just got off stage here at Crusens and put on a heck of a show, and people were excited. And just an acoustic show that I personally love, an acoustic show. I will go anywhere and listen to an acoustic show. So I appreciate that from you. And again, appreciate your time of sitting here with us today.
I can't think of a better time to do this than right now, honestly. This is the perfect time. I'm about 5 to 7 drinks in. Maybe he's counting. This is perfect.
Dude,
thank you for having me, guys.
Everybody's over with Corey Smith.
I have a slight bit of FOMO, but I've seen him for the last 2 nights, so I know the show.
We're gonna catch the end of it.
Yeah.
So you're out traveling with Corey and seeing all the countryside and opening up for him. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so I was working with a publishing company called Sprockets out of Nashville, and Corey was kind of what you'd call flirting with Sprockets, basically. Mm-hmm. I was flirting with Sprockets. They put us in the room together. We wrote, and actually what originally happened was I went out to eat with Corey. We got some Mexican food. We hit it off as people before we were ever in business together in any sort of way. And Corey and I we fuck with each other. We're on the same wavelength. So I've known him about a year. It's probably been about a year since that happened. And I just hit him up and I was like, hey, dude, if you ever have any shows you need an opener for, I would love to do it, especially if it's in the Midwest area. I can help move some tickets for you. Mm-hmm. And so he patched me in with Blake and Freddie, his manager, and his day-to-day and his TM. And, yeah, so here we are. We did Cincinnati last night, which was fucking awesome, and Champaign the night before on Thursday.
No, I mean, and he's the salt of the earth, been doing this for a long time, and has played Crusens. You've played Crusens.
Yep.
And, I mean, honestly, it's a great pairing of you guys. I mean, where you're at in your career and where he's been. Honestly, and he was talking today just about how he's starting to co-write more than he's ever done, and which I didn't know that he hadn't really dabbled in co-writing.
Corey's a solo writer. All his stuff that you hear him play at his show, he wrote himself. And so in Nashville, the way it typically works is you got 2 to 4, maybe sometimes 5 people in a room, and everybody's contributing. It's an equal share kind of thing, and he's not used to that. So there's been some learning curve for him, but he's such a good writer that, like, when you're in the room with him and you throw out a line that he's excited about, you're like, oh, fuck yeah, let's go. Like, because you've heard his songs. He's good as shit, man.
Yeah. Right.
And I've just been taking notes this whole time, man. Like, I'm trying to learn as much as I can from him. So
on your co-writing stuff, I mean, how much of your week is spent? Have you been doing more of that? Have you been doing more solo shows? Where are you at in these past, this past year, and what are you looking at over the next year as far as writing versus playing?
Yeah, so I can give you a long answer. I can give you kind of a shorter version, and I'll give you an in between.
World.
I'll give you an in between. So let's rewind back to 2023. I had been touring a lot for a couple years. Every weekend, February through November, out somewhere 8 hours away from Nashville, going 8 hours driving to play to 700 people, mostly playing like the club scene where it's covers. It's 90% covers, 10% originals. You sneak your originals in here and there to try to fucking just get them in because you have to, but people gloss over when you do it. And so I got to a point where last year I was just fed up with the cover scene. I was getting to those shows and hating every fucking second of it, to be honest. So I made a decision at the turn of the year. I'm not doing any more cover shows. I'm doing just originals. And so Tailgate N Tallboys, that solidified it for me. I was like, that is the threshold. I'm not doing shows unless it's like that. Unless I can play my original music to people who give a shit about what I'm doing. Because otherwise I'm going to blink my eyes and 10 years later I'll be doing the same shit. Like,
Yeah, still just a cover band.
playing at a
sing the
fucking
same
bowling
songs, yeah.
alley to who knows who. So
You cut the cord.
So I cut them out, and meeting Corey too. I texted him a few months back, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I want to help move some tickets, and I want to come out and play a 45-minute set as opposed to a 3-hour set of covers to people who actually give a shit. They're buying tickets, coming out to hear the original music. So, yeah, that's what where my head's at. It's this last year has been lots of writing, lots of recording. Building, basically. I have a whole new batch of music coming out. This last Friday, I put out my first single of the new batch of music. I'm super excited about. In that year's time, too, I also really honed in on who my influences are and why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's like, I've been in Nashville for 6.5 years, and something's got to give. You put out music for a long time when you first moved to town, thinking like, will people like this? Will this go viral? Will this further my success? And at some point in time, you have to start thinking about what scratches the itch for me.
Right.
What makes me happy to write about? What makes a difference?
And there's so much more I want to dive into of just exactly what you said there.
That was a lot. I know.
No, that's absolutely amazing. And I want to back it up a little bit because you're a local boy. 35 minutes. Canton, Illinois. This is home for you. Bloomington, which we've mentioned before with ISU and went there. Used to play a lot there.
Yep.
Kind of making your rounds in Bloomington. Talk to us about how that got started within the ISU campus and building a little bit of crowd and getting to rub your elbows with some of those artists as they came through.
Yeah, so I went to college at ISU, and I graduated in 2015, and I had a band at the time. We were a funk rock band, which doesn't move a lot of tickets, believe it or not. And so I was playing at a club called Six Strings Club there in
What was the
Bloomington.
band name?
Halfway to Wasteland.
That's a great name.
It's kind of sick. But I started playing open mics at Six Strings, and the owner of Six Strings was like, "Hey, dude, you're fucking good. We got to get a band around you." I was like, "I have a band. We're a funk rock band. Book us." Mm-hmm. He's like, "No, it's not going to sell tickets." And I was like, well, "What do I got to do?" And he's like, "You got to start playing country music." Weirdly enough, being in like rural Illinois, where in Canton at the time when I was graduating, country music was kind of taboo. Like, it was like, if you didn't listen to like heavy rock or metal, you were lame, basically. Country was not cool at the time.
In Canton?
And believe it or not,
really?
I know, isn't that weird? It was like the certain select crowd listened to country music, and I like dabbled in it. Like, I played like Chicken Fried and like Friends in Low Places in the set and stuff, but my band would like take a break when I'd do that, and I'd be just me. And so I was like, you know what, dude, I don't really care. I love music so much. I just want people to enjoy it and have a good time. So I'll play whatever. I don't give a shit. So I started playing country music. The owner of Six Strings joined my band. We found bass and drums, and we started playing all the good nights, all the times. So, like, what's the Coliseum? U.S. Cellular Coliseum, right there in Bloomington. Anytime there would be a national act coming through, we'd play that night, and it would be fucking balls to the wall in there. That's where I cut my teeth, and I was like, okay, I fuck with country music. I love the storytelling. I found things within country music that I loved about other genres of music, the harmonies. I am particularly drawn to the country rock side of things. And so that's what I've really been diving into a lot lately is like, how can I find ways to bring my like 90s, 2000s alt rock influence into country music? So I've been writing that kind of stuff a lot lately.
What are your like biggest influences when you look at that like 90s alt rock, metal, whatever music you're into? I mean, what are you influenced by sometimes?
Man, anything that makes me feel something first and foremost. But like, I listen to anything from Creed to Goo Goo Dolls to Matchbox 20 to Three Doors Down, Lifehouse, all those bands. Like, I guess the butt rock genre is what they call it. My influences are all the fuck over the place, but that section of music had a major impact on my life. Absolutely. And like anytime I hear that shit, I'm like, just taken right back to why I got into music originally. So
Somebody the other day at Crusens War was playing nothing but Three Doors Down. I was like, somebody is obsessed with this. And I like Three Doors Down. I'm a 90s kid. But then what's crazy is even I'm like, God damn, like, how many songs does Three Doors Down have? We've been up here for 30 minutes. And I mean, it hasn't stopped, but you do forget, like, dude, they have some bangers for days.
they have enough to tour the rest of their lives off of without having had a hit in the last 2 decades,
Yeah.
which is wild to think about.
It is wild.
Like, they can keep touring and headlining and playing massive shows, and they haven't had a hit in the last 2 decades.
Yeah. And that's like at Iowa with Shinedown. And I love Shinedown. I think all of us grow up at some point, even if you didn't know it, you liked Shinedown. But then you're sitting there listening to this show, and you're going, fuck, I forgot about this one.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I forgot about this banger.
So I have a cover of, do you remember the song Broken by Seether?
'Cause I'm broken when I'm open, and I don't feel like I am strong enough.
Amy Lee.
Amy Lee, yeah. there
From
you go.
Evanescence.
Dude.
Yep.
We've been friends for a while, and I know I need to do better at times, but I'd say the one thing that could throw it over the top is I get no Clayton Shay, pre-release songs. I have no.
I've been slipping, dude.
I get no Clayton Shay.
Hey,
pre-release.
I'll put you in demo jail after this.
I love it.
You know what demo jail is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll put you in it, dude.
I love it. I feel like I'm a decent critic.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty honest when people send me stuff. If I'm like, what do you
Yeah.
think? I'm not just gonna be like, oh, Clayton, no, dude, it's so good.
No, you need to stroke my ego, dude.
No, I won't. I'll tell you what I think. But
Well, let's
dude,
take
that Caesar
10
cover-
minutes or so, and after this we'll.
And as much as you're sitting here saying I don't want to play covers, dude, there's some great cover. Mitchell just did the Goo Goo Dolls
Yep.
cover of I think is it
Iris. Yeah.
I text
So-
him. I'm like, I'm obsessed with this.
To be
cover.
clear, there's nothing wrong with covers.
No.
They are important in their own regard. It became a 4-letter word for me for a while. Going out to those shows where I'm packing a van full of guys and equipment and driving 8 hours to play to people who don't give a fuck. That's when cover became a 4-letter word to me. Yeah. And it got dirty for a little while, but it's important, dude. It's you don't get into music without those. Cover is just a term for influence. It's like that's the music that got you interested in the first place.
Right.
So
this is going to sound crazy. For instance, we all know Luke Combs.
yeah.
This is going to sound nuts, but one of Luke Combs' best songs that he's put out, at least top 5, is
Fast Car.
Well, is Ed Sheeran's Dive.
Oh yeah.
That I think is one of his, Luke Combs crushed it. Ed Sheeran's amazing.
Well, metrically, even Fast Car. Is
Then
yeah.
Fast Cars is another one,
Yeah.
but I'm saying those 2 covers,
Yeah.
he did a great job and rejuvenated that to a whole new level.
Yeah.
And I think even, what's her name that actually,
Tracy Chapman.
yeah. Even she's like, this is nuts. This
Well,
is
it was bigger than it even went for her, I think, too.
Right.
Yeah.
When did you've talked about this before, when did you make the choice to say, fuck it, I'm going to Nashville?
Yeah, it had to be 2015 for me because I was going to ISU and I was studying to be a clinical counselor, and that was what I saw as.
What does that do?
Basically,
What's a
a
clinical-
therapist. Somebody who
okay.
talks to you about your problems. I was so interested in that, and I also, for the record, I loved school, and I was, to toot my own horn,
You're
I
that
was
kid.
really fucking good at
You're
it.
that kid.
I had straight A's.
Fuck.
Well, okay, let me back up. Through community college, I did not do well. I was on academic probation.
No one does good at community
Well,
college.
I moved out on my own when I was 16, and I went to college immediately out of high school, and I was just fucked off for a year, and I had like nothing but D's and F's. So I was on academic. I had like a 1.2 GPA after my first year. And I just fucked off completely. I skipped classes. I was like a part-timer. But after that, I was like, oh, I have to actually try at this. And then I found psychology, and I was interested in that. And I was like, okay, there's something I care about here. So I went to school at ISU, and from then on, I got nothing but straight A's. I think I had a couple of B's and maybe one C throughout that, but I think I graduated with like a 3.8 or something like that.
When you see the end result of what you want to and you're passionate about it,
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that makes the big difference. When you're sitting here doing like for me, it was always like biology. Like I could give two shits about whatever. I don't see what I'm going to use this for. When I don't see that, I was a horrible.
It was chemistry
student.
for me.
I don't
was
ever.
that way.
When I don't see it, I'm like a horrible student. And but when you actually are like, oh my god, I'm passionate about this. I can see what I want to do with this. But
at what age did you say, hey, I'm really enjoying this music, songwriting, all of that?
So 2015 is when I graduated from college. That was 9 years ago. So I'm giving away my age here. I was 22 at the time. That was whenever I had my diploma in my hand, and I had set up myself for going to graduate school and being a clinical counselor. And I had like my professors, a couple of them who were like my mentors. And I went to them and I was like, hey, I love school. I love the direction I'm headed, but I also really love this music thing. And a couple of my professors at the time, I'll give them credit for this because I probably wouldn't have done it had they not said this, but they're like, hey, chase that because you can afford basically to fuck up right now. You're young.
Yeah.
You can always come back to school. And so I was like, I saw all of these bands coming through Six Strings in Bloomington, all these Nashville guys who were just miles above, no offense to any cover bands locally, because there's nothing wrong with cover music, but miles above and beyond those cover bands locally. And I was like, that's what I got to do. I always use the analogy of if you want to be a marine biologist, you have to be by the ocean or by the water. Same thing with music. If you want to excel at what we're doing here, it's like you got to get where that is, the hub of music. And so it's probably around 2016 or 17 that I opened for a band called Blackjack Billy, and I kept in contact with those guys. And over the years, as things went on with music in the local scene, I kind of hit a bit of a glass ceiling with cover music, and I was like, something's got to give here, basically. So I was like, I'm moving to fucking Nashville, and I cashed in on those relationships. I hit up the Blackjack Billy guys, and they're like, hey, learn to play bass, come tour with us. So I went out on the road with them in 2018. It was like an apprenticeship for me. Yeah. I learned a bunch that year on the road with them, and I basically learned what I wanted to do myself as an artist by doing it with them. I saw the big stages, I saw the catering, I saw the meet and greets. I was like, I gotta do that myself. So
what's been the highlight? What's been the Mount Rushmore, the best thing that's happened to you since you've been, in Nashville? You moved down there. What's something you're like, man, I'll take this to my grave with me, as far as like this something that I'll never let go of that was a highlight?
Two times come to my mind. The first time was 2018, Boots and Hearts Music Festival in Ontario, Canada. We played to 30,000 people, and it was religious. Like, I'm getting chills just right now just talking about it, because I was playing bass for a band that I didn't write any of the music for, but to hear them sing the music back to us in a way that was deafening, like I pulled my ears out because I wanted to hear it, and I was fucking deaf after the show. My ears were just ringing. I got off stage and I went and called my best friend. I was like, dude, do you fucking hear this crowd right now? He's like, I hear it, buddy. I hear it. That was like the first time I was like, this is what fucking matters, is original music.
Yeah.
So that first, and I'm not just saying this next one because you're here.
Shout out Brooke and them at Boots and Hearts for doing that for you.
I'm not just saying this next one because you're here, but Tailgate N Tallboys was huge for me too as an artist. This year was a turning point for me where, like I said, I decided to cut the cover gigs out and dive headfirst into the original music. That side stage slot, I had a lot of people there that knew my music, and I had a similar experience, not quite to the same scale as Boots and Hearts, but a lot of people there that were singing my music back to me, and it made me feel like an artist. So that solidified my decision to plunge headfirst into what we're doing moving forward.
Dude, I love that for you. And I mean, I've texted you. We've talked about it, of how much that meant to us, how much that meant to, the family, of our core group of friends and stuff. But yeah, for us, we're all about, cruising to the main stage and watching our friends and people we care about get to that point. That means a lot that those are your two high points. Not to switch topics, what's like the most embarrassing fucking thing that's happened of you since you being an artist? We were like, man, that was a rough one. Because I know like stand-up comics go places and like, dude, I bombed, I walked off, it was bad, I wasn't prepared, I was drunk, I was whatever it is. What's a moment where you're like, dude, that was one where I'm like, that hurt?
Well, having played a million cover gigs in my life, I have developed a skill for playing very drunk. I'm not particularly proud of it. There's been so many times on Broadway in Nashville that I don't remember playing that people were like, "Oh, I saw you last night. It was great." I was like, "I was?"
Oh,
sick.
Shit.
I can't think of a particular time in general, but you're never proud of times when you don't remember playing.
No, I don't even know what that's like.
I've played so many gigs to nobody. It's like, but that's what builds you into somebody who appreciates it when you get it. Yeah. And I think that, not to knock anyone who's like making it through TikTok or whatever way you get to where you need to be. But I think that's one thing that those guys are lacking is the boots on the ground, grassroots, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps when you just played to 5 people. It's something that they don't have whenever they get to that big stage, is the appreciation for what you have when you get there.
For sure. I mean, when you have people that are, we've had people come through Crusens and, they're looking at us going, I'm tickled to death that there's 100 people here.
Yeah.
That was my goal.
Yeah.
Then we have other people that are like sending messages, "Hey, have we sold it out yet?" I was like, "You're at 56 tickets." I don't know, like it's the different perspective of different people's expectations of what you're thinking you're going to do, and it's a tough one because again, there are people that are on whatever platform you choose that they're using it, and great, you have that following, but do you have these bases that are going to come to every show, that are going to sing every word back to you, and you got to, leverage that any way you can.
We were talking about it earlier, me and Wayne and Corey, about like building something over time to where you have, for example, last night in Cincinnati, I opened for Corey, and it was probably a 800 cap room, and there's probably 400 people there. But it was all diehard Corey Smith fans that have been watching him play for 2 decades. And I sat back by the sound booth for his set, and people were walking by and stopping and being like, "Hey, you are fucking awesome," to me. And I wasn't sitting back there for that reason, but I would not have wanted to play for any other crowd because those diehard fans, they're going to latch on and they're going to be lifelong fans, as opposed to like a flash in the pan artist where somebody's trending. I won't say any names, but somebody's trending and they're going to see them because they're trending. That's different to me.
But we've all gone to a concert. We just talked about this on the podcast. One of my favorite things is when I've gone to concerts. I'm a music lover of all genres. Yeah. I love rock probably the most. I have gone because of a Corey Smith, let's say.
Yeah.
Shown up, get there. I don't know who this fucking Clayton Shay guy is playing, whatever. Here we are. Leave a complete fan.
Yeah.
That's the best feeling for a fan.
I'm all about that.
When
dude.
I'm like, I showed up for this band, I already have the 2 openers that I'm obsessed with.
Yep.
Never heard them before, ever. One of them that comes to mind is I went to my buddy, who's a diehard music fan, loves Run the Jewels.
Okay.
If you've ever heard Run the Jewels.
Never heard of them.
Amazing. You'd love them. I like them too. But whatever. My buddy's like, hey, let's go to Chicago to see him. They're opening for Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Which was a dream for them. It's the only time they played together.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a '90s kid. I'm like, I fucking love Queens of the Stone Age. Again, not something I've ever burned an album down doing.
Yeah.
Cliffy Biro opened for him, band out of like Scotland. Never heard these guys ever in my life. I was left that place. I'm like, these guys were amazing. Left a huge fan. Listened to that CD a ton. And hell, even when I left after Queens of the Stone Age, I'm like, dude, they got so many good hits. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just leave there, like, you left an impression on somebody. And for you, I mean, that's got to be where you've got Corey kind of teeing it up a little bit. And you're like, man, I just played to 400 people. And hopefully, I mean, at least 400 of them were like, hell yeah, Clayton Shay, dude. We got to look this guy up, you know.
Well, you have two jobs as an opener. And one is to pump the crowd up so that the headliner comes in to a warmed up crowd, but two is to convert those diehard fans into your fans also. And the money doesn't fucking matter to me. I don't give a shit what he pays me when I come out here. He's been taking care of me just fine. But the main thing I wanted from this was make sure that people are set up for him to come on and make sure that I can convert those lifelong Corey fans into Clayton Shay fans. And last night and tonight were both amazing shows for me personally. They make me feel slightly emotional because I got into this. I don't give a fuck about if I ever get famous or rich. If those happen along the way as a byproduct of the path, that's great. But I feel so compelled to write music that makes a difference and that people care to listen to and come out and see me play at a show. Eventually, I would love to be doing it on the full band scale on big stages, but I'll take these 45-minute opening slots any day over a 3-hour full band show where I'm playing to a bunch of college kids that don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Because it just matters so much to me.
At that point, you're just like background noise.
Exactly.
So what's on the horizon? What's coming up?
Yeah, just lots of new music, man. I've been writing so much over the last year. I've got a lot of music I care a lot about. I just released a song this last Friday, not yesterday, the week before, that feels like a good Kickstarter for the new batch of music that is very much me, authentically. That feels like it matters. It feels like it's different than what I've ever done. I've put out 11 singles. And to be brutally honest, along that path, there was a lot of thinking about like what would trend, what would be viral. Does this sound like Morgan Wallen? Does this sound like whatever? And I just stopped giving a fuck about that and thinking more.
It's got to be tough to not.
Because there's a lot of people in this industry that you can scroll through Instagram or TikTok and see a million Morgan Wallen carbon copies.
Yeah, but you don't think that back in the day people were like, is this Johnny Cash? Is this...
They've done it since the beginning of time. Like, since the beginning of music. Yeah.
So what is that song? Mind of Its Own, right?
Mind of Its Own, yeah.
I mean, where did that come from? Like how did that come about, and where does that rank as far as, you know, some of your last ones that you wrote? I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know who you wrote that with. Yeah. Was it all you? Was it co-wrote?
It was co-written with my buddy Jordan Rager, who's a good buddy of me and Corey's. We all three write together. And then my producer, Andrew Capra, who's a fucking stud. It feels different in the regard of, like, it feels like I wrote that song because it was what I wanted to talk about selfishly. In this year that I've taken off from releasing music, I've also been reading, it's so lame, I've been reading like a lot of self-help kind of books, like Rick Rubin. You familiar with Rick Rubin? He's a producer. And Rick talks about releasing music that serves you first as the artist, and music that you would release if there wasn't another human on the earth, but you felt so compelled to release it that you had to put it out because it felt like you had to get it out of yourself. So that song, Mind of Its Own, the work tape we did, lived in my car every time I got in the car. I felt like I had to put it on and just listen to it. So eventually I started hearing production to it, and I was like, I gotta fucking record this. So
that Rick Rubin, I watched one about, grew up a System of the Downs fan. You know, have you ever seen that video about how, what is it, Chop Suey or whatever their main song is? How they got to this lull where, like, what do we do about this part of the song? They're trying to figure out the lyrics of what to do, and Rick Rubin was just, hey, go over there, pull any book off the shelf and just read me the first line you come to. So like pull it off, and then that one of the main parts of that song ended up being what they opened up, and like he tells that story all the time. Like there was no thought behind it. It was just in the moment.
It's crazy because I've never written that way before in my life. Like I obsess about lyrics. I'll sit in a room with 3 guys and beat them to death about getting the lyrics right. We'll sit there for hours and hours. But he talks about like fuck, I'm drawing a blank now. The main band he worked with, Rick Rubin, where they would go out and record on like the top of a fucking mountain.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't believe I didn't think of that. But
no, he's wrote with a ton of different people.
Yeah,
I mean,
so they would go out there and he'd be like, just go out there and make noises. And they'd be like, and the one like syllable would line up and they're like, oh, let's keep that. And they kept that and they just move on. And they wouldn't think about it. And they've all been fucking hits. Like, it's insane.
But that's the part too, is I haven't wrote, we talked about this before. I haven't wrote a fucking song ever in my life. But I can imagine that at a certain point you get the writer's block, anything like that. And dude, you have to just stop giving a shit and just hopefully put shit out that eventually something clicks. But what is going to catch people's attention nowadays, God only fucking knows.
That's right.
God only knows what is going to grab somebody's attention, because there's some shit where I'm like, this is what's selling out a room. And then there's times I'm like, I can't believe this isn't selling out a fucking room.
Yeah. And
it's crazy.
That's why at the end of the day, as an artist, what ultimately is the common denominator is what scratches the itch for you, and what, if everything else was taken out of the equation, success, who listens to it, who doesn't, all of that was gone, what still makes you feel something? Like that's what I'm reaching for. So that's what every single from here on out is going to be for me, is something that serves me first. And if people fuck with it still after that, that's amazing. Yeah. But it has to be something that I'm in love with first.
So what other hobbies do you have outside of music?
Golf for sure. I'm a terrible golfer.
So you need to be around for some of the Crusens golf outings. We've got some golf outings around.
I'd love to.
I think you've heard some stories earlier today that might entice you to come back for those.
Yeah, my best round is a 90. That's my best round I've ever shot.
Best part about Crusens outing, I don't think anybody keeps score.
No.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I'm 100% on that. So I will say, like, music occupies about 95% of my brain capacity. I obsess about it. I am not a person who's good at doing things halfway, whether it be drinking or anything at all. Like I go 100% into it.
Full send. Music,
and then like the other 5% I have left is I watch golf videos on Instagram.
Really?
I save them all, and I like before I go play, I'll spend an hour watching golf videos, like thinking it's gonna help my game or whatever. It never does, but
ball still flies wherever it wants.
Yeah, that's right. You know, but the thing about golf that I love, comparable to music, is it feels like an inconquerable task. It feels like something that I could spend my entire life doing, and you could be 60 and still be like, man, you know, my chipping's still not quite where I want it to be. I fucking love that. Yeah. I love the idea of something that I'm always going to be working at.
Always work to be done. So, Canton, growing up in Canton, what else? What's in Canton? What is there to do in Canton as you're growing up at teenage years? What kind of country stuff did you get into there?
In Canton, there is nothing to do but drugs and fucking around in the woods and hanging out with friends, really, to be honest. When I was young, I got into a lot of trouble, and I learned a lot of life lessons very early on that I'm thankful for, because I think had I not, it could have happened at a much worse time for me. So coming from a place like that, it's very humbling. Not a lot of people make it out of a small town a lot of times. So going back there too, it's like time fucking slows down. I go back there, I see my friends who are all getting houses and getting married and having kids, and here I am still a fucking 31-year-old child basically. So I I love going back there and seeing the hometown, but yeah, it's a small town. You come up with things to do to pass the time and to have fun, and yeah, you get creative basically.
And that's kind of the premise of this whole podcast for Austin. We've talked about, this is Tailgate Beers. I grew up in Henry, Illinois, which is about 35 miles north of here, but it's the same thing, right? We would go out in the middle of a cornfield. You got to take the waterways to get down to one tree out in the middle, and we would lower our tailgates and sit on the back and have a few beers out there. And it's,
I grew up in Metamora. I grew up Friday night
You
lights.
are enemies.
Yeah, Friday night lights. Yeah, we beat you guys' ass every single weekend.
Fuck, dude.
Every single weekend.
Quick pause. When you guys would come to Canton, we would be like, "Who are these fucking grown ass men?" Like you guys were eating something different than.
And then
we
what's
were.
weird is then we'd go play Sacred Heart Griffin in playoffs, and it was like a JFL team playing the Bears.
That's what we were too.
Right, but that's what's weird is it's how it goes through that phase. But I did not play football, but yes,
You weren't like a punter or anything.
no. I was basketball and 1 year of soccer. Just for the fuck of it.
Hell yeah, dude.
he was a receiver.
Yeah, grass fairy
Football.
for 1 year. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Football. But what's crazy is that's what I grew up doing. And that, honestly, that is the premise of this. And it's crazy for all three of us because I think we lived very similar where even at, I watch these kids now even here and, people are fake IDs, doing all this stuff. I'm like, dude, I just keep hounding my buddy's brother who was over 21 and we'd finally get him to go pick us up something so we could go out into the field and back roads, all that stuff. Like that's what I grew up doing. Tailgate Beers, tailgating is what we did all the time.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't trying to get into Crusens when I was under 20. Wouldn't even cross the river. I'm all the way back in some field, and to this day, like those are some of the best times of getting around a fire, getting with people, whether music was being played, whether you're just having this. And this is what the premise of the conversation is of who knows where this conversation goes. Because when you showed up there that night and who knows what you got into, who knows what you used to drink. And that's what I love about this podcast is just being able to have those conversations and, see more about, what's important to people, where you're at in your journey of what you're going through. But yeah, we love it. All small town boys right
That's
here.
right.
I see we got some shots here. Should we take these shots?
Yeah, they were warm when I poured them, and they're still warm
Hell
now.
yeah.
So,
Can you microwave it? Get it nice and hot for me.
well, hey, cheers to you, man. Here's to
Love you, boys.
Yeah, here's to a long career for you, man.
Yes.
Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate you. Always
Cheers.
family. Oh boy. Ooh. Actually, that Jack kind of tastes cool. We got probably a little bit of time left on this, but you're jumping out of an airplane, getting ready to go onto a deserted island for the rest of your life. 5 albums you can listen to for the rest of your life.
Oh,
You're
wow.
never going to hear another album. You can only listen to 5.
So while you're thinking about that, Corey was in here earlier today, and he blew all kinds of holes in his, jumping out of airplane. I have a record player in my back.
He answered the question, and then he completely fucked my whole thing up. He's like, so, you're telling me I have a phone, but yet I can't do it? Like, how's this going to work? Did I jump out of the plane with a seat? I'm like, just answer the fucking question. Like, but, again, everybody answers it in different ways. To me, it shows a lot about people. I love asking it. I think it's a good party question. So you went to school to do, psychology, about, counselor, all this stuff. I think it tells a lot about a person, like who you are, your depth, how much do you overthink, what do you think about? I don't know. What's your variety?
Influences.
What's your influence?
So, I'll say my first 2 that come to my head are Tucker Bethard. Are you familiar with him? Tucker Bethard. So his King album has been like my North Star for my music moving forward. Ryan Hurd has an album called Pelago, which is islandy. That's a coincidence.
It's a great album.
So those 2 off the top of my head. My influences, like I said earlier, are fucking all over the board. So would I know that I'm going to an island ahead of time? Is this something?
It doesn't matter. These are the only things your ears are ever going to hear.
Okay. So I'm Corey Smithing you right now.
Right. Just answer the fucking question.
Yeah, totally. So I would take the Beatles' Abbey Road album with me.
I love it.
In addition to those other two.
2 more.
I would take any Jack Johnson album because it would feel like that. That's the shit that I grew up on too. And then so I got one more. Is that right?
Yeah.
I would take Creed, Human Clay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's
I just told him tonight. I just told him tonight that Creed's making that comeback.
Absolutely. I mean, we can go on a deep dive on that one because they're getting bashed, but yeah, that's a great 5
Super
albums.
random, super fucking random. And I have so many more that.
But now mine always gets stuck on the 5th.
Yeah.
4th and 5th. I mean, there was a period of time where even for me, I'm like, dude, Morgan Wallen double album. I'm like, how can I not?
Yeah.
And then you start, fuck, that means I can't take this one, and then you're like, shit.
And bonus album, Death Cab for Cutie, Plans. I don't know if you've ever listened to them,
Absolutely.
but I love those guys.
So even one of mine was what I said earlier was mine always revolved around live. Taking Back Sunday live in Los Angeles.
I thought you meant live, the band live.
No. Well, no.
Like
live music.
Precious.
Live music is what I.
Yeah.
Taking Back Sunday live in Los Angeles. John Mayer live in Los Angeles.
Yep.
Counting Crows live in New Amsterdam. Oasis live in Wembley. Those are easily my top 4. Why they happen to be live?
Something about a live album feels different.
The energy, we talked about it earlier, and it's the energy, but it's weird that if that's what I have to listen to, I'm going. But then again, I'm like, what about a Billy Joel album? What about a Johnny Cash album? What about Gary Allan? And I'm like,
there's no end to the music I would take, honestly.
But it shows the longevity of I'm listening to this shit and I'm burning my speakers down with this album right now.
Yeah.
I won't listen to that shit a year from now.
Yep.
But guess what? I put that album in and it's the same as it was a year ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, and I still love it to this day. I don't know. It's just some of them stand the test of time. So
I should probably throw a Kenny Chesney album in there somewhere too, because you're on an island. You have to.
Right, but you're gonna want to kill yourself because you're on an island. So you're gonna be like, I mean, you don't even have booze. We haven't even said if there's booze on it. No one has ever asked me, is this like Pirates of the Caribbean where I'm going to find the rum, stock there? No one has ever said,
can I pick Pirates of the Caribbean's soundtrack?
But no one's asked if you're going to have booze. Like, you're going to be sober as fuck listening to Creed, wanting to just jump off a bridge.
I mean, that's me most days. So nothing changes.
That's so funny. Do you want to throw in a question here? I mean, we got Clayton now. I mean, this is your chance.
Nope.
This is your moment.
Yeah, me chock full of wild boar and potatoes and.
Right.
It was delicious.
It was delicious.
The Delmonico. I had Delmonico for the second time in 3 days.
Shout out Connected in Peoria.
Yes. No, it was delicious as usual. But yeah, no, I don't have any more. I don't have any more questions.
We appreciate you taking time to do this, man. Always great seeing you.
Likewise, buddy. Thanks for having me.